Is the Bitcoin halving happened?
Yeah.
Probably the biggest event in crypto's history. You know, it happens every 4 years, and it happened on Saturday.
Venezuela is set to using cryptocurrency to settle oil sales. So I think this comes off the back of a sanction that's been imposed by the US to the country.
I think it's important to add that Bitcoin dominance is at like a 3-year high, which is about 56%, but it's still like way off those 2021 highs, which sat at about 70%. I think once that starts to teeter off, and I'm talking about Bitcoin dominance, that's we'll probably start to look at the altcoin season and really start to pick some winners there.
Hey guys, welcome to Tapping Into Crypto. I'm Pav, and with me, the illustrious Ted.
Thanks for the intro, Pav.
I thought I'd
good to be here.
Throw on back at you, you know?
Mate, you're not bad at the intro. We might have to get you doing it a bit more often. But yeah, mate, good to be back.
How was your weekend?
Fantastic. Went to the Lions. That's about it.
Rainy?
Very rainy. The Lions lost.
Wet, wasn't it?
Yeah, but
no good.
Good weekend nonetheless. But Pav, there's a lot to uncover.
Yeah,
so
sorry, we better not waste time.
Let's not waste any time and get straight into it.
Let's go.
I mean, lots happened since last week. We obviously had the dip in the market, primarily based off the back of the conflict in the Middle East, and as we mentioned, like me and you both bought the dip, which actually worked out for us because a lot of the altcoins, particularly the ones that were down over 30%, came back a lot. Mm-hmm. What are you seeing at the moment?
Very simply, like we've always, I guess here at least, looked at everything as a range, and we basically took out. It's not really last week's range. I'll delete that. But if we look at like where price was trading back in March, it's essentially just dipped under the March prices and pretty much rallied as soon as we've come back inside the March low. So that tells me the market's seeing value at those lows. So from here, it's really setting up what we might see as the next basis for going higher. You know, this is exactly what we'd want to see if we want to see new highs, in my opinion. But you know, obviously we can't discount what happens after we get out of this sort of range here. We could start to go sideways and go up, or also go down. But historically speaking, you know, once we have had a dip like this, like we have seen in previous bull markets, this is kind of usually the washout that we need to see to sort of peg prices and go a bit higher. So fair bit of damage done on altcoins. I mean, some of them even down 60%. So if you did manage to catch something as part of your DCA or dollar costing strategy, well done. Obviously right now it's looking pretty good. Mm-hmm. But yeah, for me, we're even seeing the ETF flows. So the big boys and girls in Wall Street, they haven't really stopped buying. The only one that's been, I guess, selling persistently is the GBTC product, the Grayscale. So that's something that's not new, but even that we're starting to see slow down as well. So what's important to know is that even through all this turmoil, all these rockets being launched left, right, and center, we were still seeing buying from Wall Street on the Bitcoin ETFs as well. So I would anticipate that if with the market continuing to climb, I'd want to see these numbers start to increase, get above these averages that we can see down here. And that'll be very, very good tailwinds for the market. And just lastly, I wanted to point out we have got some pretty big macroeconomic news, specifically from the US coming out this week. I won't name them all, but the big one is GDP, so gross domestic product. They're actually pegging it to be 2.4%, which is less than what it was last quarter. So anything above that is likely not priced into the market.
Right.
So it'll be a really, really interesting one if we do get a higher.
So anything above that means good for the market. Yeah,
likely good for the market.
Yeah.
So it's just suspiciously low is all I would say.
Okay.
So yeah, just be watching that one. That lands Thursday. Yeah, Thursday, 10:30 p.m. Aussie Eastern Standard Time. So,
yep. And one thing we forgot to mention is the Bitcoin halving happened every weekend.
There's that
probably the biggest event in crypto's history. You know, it happens every 4 years, and it happened on Saturday. I mean, as we were never really expecting Bitcoin to, shoot up and to the right on the day of the halving or even within a week, were we? Because these things usually take a little bit of time before things start to really start getting moving. But yeah, that's now in place. So we've always talked about how the ETFs were buying up, I think, a couple of thousand Bitcoin a day, and then there were 900 Bitcoin being created. That's what drove the price up initially.
Yep.
But now that 900 Bitcoin being created a day is now 450 or approximately around there. And so I've
got a great stat. Ever since the ETFs launched on the 11th of January, 220,000 Bitcoin have been held on custody as inflows. So that's what they're holding in entities, about that figure. And there's only been just under 90,000 created. So if we get the same amount of buying, and now there's even half of that being issued as new tokens, or new coins, sorry. I mean, that's the supply shock we've been talking about for months now. Like this is what we're dealing with. And we've got China about to start doing ETFs as well.
Absolutely. Well, Hong Kong.
Hong Kong, sorry.
Yeah.
Not mainland China.
No. But yeah, I think this last week is kind of like a good opportunity to call out the, like we've seen, you know, black swan events and events that, you know, kind of evoke fear, uncertainty, doubt. We call it FUD, over the last couple of years. And traditionally those have been like the best times to buy. Like, the feeling you get when you see, you know, Bitcoin like dip pretty considerably, and then altcoins, like you said, up to 60%, you get scared, you get hesitant and cautious. You don't want to. But like, if you look back in the last few years, you know, you saw the FTX saga play out. You saw Russia and Ukraine. You saw the USDC depegging or issues there with
depegging.
What was the bank? Silicon Valley Bank.
Silicon Valley, SV.
So yeah, and then of course now with the conflict in the Middle East, that, you know, who knows how it's going to play out. But typically what we see is you know, a pretty sharp dip, and then as time goes on, the market comes back pretty strongly as well. So just let that be a little bit of a lesson to everyone. Just like don't always think what the market is thinking, and try and think outside of the box when these things happen. And same when it's going up as well. So like, if everyone's thinking it's bullish and it's going to go to the moon, like maybe think the opposite. Just to give you know, an alternative perspective.
No, it's absolutely right. And to think of this as well, like, just again, think of this in your mind, just really chastise it, because you're going to see this again, and you're going to have to be able to think in a similar fashion way again. Like we just said, there's so many events where the exact same things played out. So it's not going to stop.
Yeah. And even in a bull market, these things happen.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But look, I wanted to put a question to you. How long till alt season? I mean, we haven't even had the Bitcoin pump. But
we're closer to it than we were yesterday. Look, a lot of it comes down to Bitcoin dominance, in my opinion, and we don't know when this is going to top out. But look, I've sort of marked out, so Bitcoin dominance, this is a reflection of how much of the total market cap is sitting in Bitcoin. And what I would expect is, what we want to really kick off an altcoin real alt season is another Bitcoin-led rally. So that means Bitcoin sort of steals a show, sucks out liquidity, most other altcoins go up, but it's only the good ones, the high beta ones, the ones that are actually in market performing. So the likes of your Solanas, we've seen in recent times, Sade, Pendle, just to name a few randomly, even some meme coins. So I think once we get up to these sort of levels and we start to absolutely cascade down, that we just see all altcoins across all classes likely catch a bid and start to put in their seismic new highs. So I would still say don't know when. We can look at the previous market cycle, and we can see initially there was a bit of a fade to the downside after the halving, which was here. And basically we did see dominance drop about 8 to 9%. So that would have precipitated maybe a lot of the breakouts initially for altcoins, but we saw that quickly whip back up before the eventual drop down. And that occurred, 231 days after the halving. So it's, again, food for thought. But second halving, we saw the real break about 217 days after the halving again. So if we look at this halving, 217 days, or let's just say what's 200 days, we're looking at November at the end of this year. So there's nothing to say that there may be potentially some sort of, you know, altcoin frenzy if we sort of repeat last time initially, which is then led by some sort of maybe sell-off, which results in this going up, and then the ultimate drop, which looks like it could be towards the back end of this year if history repeats itself again.
I think it's important to add that Bitcoin dominance is at like a 3-year high, which is about 56%, but it's still like way off those 2021 highs, which sat at about 70%. So I don't know if it's necessarily going to reach those highs again, because if you look back at the cycle before, it didn't reach the dominance level that it did, because more coins are entering the market, more money, especially institutional money, is flowing into some of these other altcoins. Like we talk about Ethereum, Solana, and other big projects are garnering that sort of mainstream attention and institutional buying. So something to keep an eye on. But I think once that starts to teeter off, and I'm talking about Bitcoin dominance, that's when we'll probably start to look at the altcoin season and really start to pick some winners there.
But that doesn't stop things like this happening. Like again, we're talking about alt season where some of these altcoins do, triple figure plus percentages day in, day out. We're still seeing days where the markets are up. You can see right here, 20 to 40%, right? So it all just comes down to what's your plan, or I guess, essentially long term, you'd be looking at that. But even short term, there are still these sort of opportunities in market.
Yeah. And I've got a little bit of a tweet to show it's a good tweet. It kind of show, because like some people might be saying, like you said, we're already getting altcoin season because, the likes of Pepe and Bonk are up 30%. But I just want to remind people what sort of altcoin mania really looks like. So looking back at the 2021 cycle, we've got a few little things here. So Dogecoin went up close to 10x in a day, and that was already sitting at $1 billion market cap, which is just like unheard of. And that's what really triggered, like a mainstream frenzy into crypto last cycle. I know working at Swyftx is a crazy day.
Yeah, that was mental.
Some other ones to call out here. Theta market cap went from 1 billion to 12 billion, so 12x in 3 months. Rune went from 200 million to 5 billion in 5 months. Filecoin reached at some point an FDV close to 400 billion. So yeah, just parabolic things happening in the altcoin market. Obviously, these align with a lot of the trends. Like I know Axie Infinity and Gala, 2 gaming coins, did absolutely stupid numbers as well. So they fall in line with these trends, but it's just kind of to point out that we haven't seen nothing yet. And I don't think it's until we have that large Bitcoin pump that we will see that altcoin season, and we'll see money rotate out of Bitcoin into the altcoins.
Yeah, and just very simply think about it too. The people you're talking to and sort of trying to have chats about crypto with, they're the people that are already in crypto. Like it's not until you actually start talking to your mates that never touched crypto that we're probably edging on the edge of the markets maybe turning around in a big way. If you think about it from sentiment point of view. But what are you seeing in the top movers, Ted?
Look, there's a lot of green. Some of the key ones, I think we've highlighted the Solana ecosystems, bit of a narrative playing out at the moment. So Bonk is one of the top movers, and Jupiter, which is the key DEX on Solana, and then also Pyth Network, which is a Node protocol. Or Node.
I like Oracle.
Sorry, Oracle protocol. Yeah. And then what else we seen, Pav?
Well, I think it's interesting. I was actually going to talk about it regardless of if it's on the top movers, but I'm seeing a couple of gaming coins finally, or at least that industry or sector. So we've got Beam, IMX. So, I mean, obviously these could be just the fact that they're catching a bid after the massive sell-off that we've seen. Yep. But, I mean, a lot of these gaming coins look like they were close to dead to me on a technical chart at least. So if there's ever a point for these to start to pop and go, I would say it's relatively soon. And if it doesn't, and other sectors start to shoot off instead. So let's say the AI narrative again, if that starts running forward, I would be personally looking at a reason to show that gaming is going to outpace AI for the next couple of weeks or months. Like I'd still say that might be the most popular theme that people are seeing. But I mean, we've called it for quite a while now, like infrastructure tokens, like say I can see there Near, Injective. They've all been outperformers for months now. So it's not a surprise to see them in the top movers again. That's kind of what I was dollar cost averaging into, to be honest.
Yeah, so was I. And I know a few of them, particularly Say and Sui, ones that I hold, they were down like, close to 40%, even more than that.
Discount.
So I was like, okay, well, I already have a pretty strong position. I might as well just dollar cost average.
Yep.
And
brings down that average cost, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And don't forget, we've got our trading competition, which, I'm seeing Celestia in here, which I know that was one of your picks. So
I wonder who won.
I mean, you'll have to find out, but make sure to stick around for that at the end, where we'll give our picks for the next week. But yes, good to see the markets looking green again.
Yep, all good things. And hopefully we can, again, do another deep dive into another sector. I think that was pretty well received, the real world asset breakdown we did last time. So we'll give that another crack.
Yeah, we'll do that every couple of weeks just because there's a limited number of sectors, but I think it's important that people understand the difference between these sectors and
what's the
narratives they move in. So quick one. So Token 2049 happened in Singapore over the weekend. I think it was Thursday, Friday actually. And
didn't flood.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of the speakers couldn't even get into the country. No, it's in Dubai, isn't it?
Oh, was that the one? You said Singapore.
Yeah.
Is that the same? Yeah, no, Dubai, they're definitely flooded then. I thought that.
Yeah, sorry, it was in Dubai, yeah. And so I think it put a bit of a dampener literally on the event. But look, there were still some big announcements. I know I called out as part of my trading strategy for the competition that I was looking at Toncoin because there was, anticipated some big announcements coming there.
Yep.
So turns out it was. So Tether was launching USDT and XAUT, so it's gold stablecoin on the Toncoin blockchain, which is pretty massive.
Huge.
Obviously, Tether is the company behind the biggest stablecoin, USDT. Huge company. And then also Telegram announced that their own creators will now be able to be tipped in Toncoin, with 70% of the tips going to creators.
Wow, that's huge.
So for those that don't know, Toncoin is quite closely linked with Telegram, and that's part of the reasons why it's done so well.
Yeah, lots of users ready to go, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Apart from that, not too much. I think it was partly due to the fact that a lot of the speakers couldn't get in. But I was anticipating Chainlink to bring out some big announcements, but nothing really to report there. So missed the mark on that one.
Mate, it's all right, it happens, but still pretty big adoption stories for crypto. And speaking of adoption stories, Venezuela is set to try to fast track using cryptocurrency to settle oil sales. So I think this comes off the back of a sanction that's been imposed by the US to the country. So I guess take from it what you will. It could just be maybe a good case study at the end of the day of actually settling large volumes and costs associated with commodities through a blockchain as a payment method. Nothing that I can think of that sort of is doing anything similar to this. So it's just interesting to see that a lot of the stuff is all still done on the US dollar. People may not know. So, using cryptocurrency as a way to sort of settle them in real time looks like what they're trying to fast track.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this ties into the next news headline that we're going to look into.
Yeah, Mr. RFK Jr.
Yeah, so we always talk about like how crypto, for it to really hit the mainstream and really go astronomical in terms of prices, we need governments to adopt it.
Yep.
And we spoke about Venezuela. Obviously, what was it? El Salvador.
El Salvador
was the original one.
The name. Yeah.
But
geez, they're doing well right now.
What have we got here, Pav?
Well, RFK Jr. just in a recent address said if elected, he'll put the entire US budget on a blockchain. So I don't know. Like for me, it's just maybe just trying to elicit, just enact some sort of reaction from a crowd. But yeah. I mean, RFK, very popularly known to be a Bitcoin lover, has done many talks to be paid in Bitcoin, which he said he's put in trust accounts for his kids. He sees a long-term potential of a decentralized, deflationary currency. So just interesting. I think for him, it's just a way to, again, get a bit of engagement. But look, I mean, even if it puts just blockchain tech in the public eye to be looked into further, that's great for me. I still think, at least starts a discussion.
Is he the son of JFK or nephew?
I think it's nephew.
Nephew.
I think it's nephew. I could be wrong. Someone might better tell us, but I'm pretty sure it's nephew.
I know his family all pretty much got assassinated, so...
Yeah. Well, are we going to dive into that now, are we?
Well, no, look, I just know that he's doing well.
Yeah, he is doing well. What else we got happening? Tim Draper.
Yeah, Tim Draper. So this, you probably wouldn't have heard of him. He's not a massive name, but he's basically known for picking... $10,000 Bitcoin in 2014. So he picked it in 3 years' time. Bitcoin's going to hit $10,000. In 2017, I think it hit even 20K US. So he was bang on the money there. Mm-hmm. But he's come out with an even bigger prediction this time. He said it could reach up to 10 million. So it was kind of a throwaway statement saying, Bitcoin could hit 250, a million, 5 million, even 10 million.
Yep.
And he said that it could happen for a couple of reasons, mainly if, Bitcoin is adopted by... governments all over the world and becomes more adapted into our daily lives. So using it for goods and services, even paying your taxes with it. So in that case, he's I see no reason why Bitcoin wouldn't hit 10 mil because everyone would own Bitcoin. And then you also made a good point before how, if Bitcoin overtakes some of these fiat currencies, the fiat currencies would really have no value anymore. So the value of the fiat currency would drop, and therefore the value against Bitcoin Bitcoin's value against the fiat currency would rise.
Yeah, it's just talking to what we're already seeing, the buying power, I guess you could call it, of things like our Aussie dollars, US dollars. It's always declining. So that's why, things like gold and Bitcoin, I guess, hopefully a better store of value. But I could definitely see that being the case. But I mean, whether it's in the next 100 years, 200 years, or 50 years, that's what we'll wait and find out.
Yeah, it's worth pointing out that this guy looks pretty ancient.
Yeah.
And but hey, he's a billionaire.
Hey, he's done it right. He's done something right. So Wait, without further ado, let's jump into the TIC crypto tipping, the TIC tipping.
So for the listeners that weren't joining us last week, we started a bit of a competition on the Swyftx demo mode, which you can access via the Swyftx app. So we're starting with $10,000 USD, and we're making 3 trades a week and updating the listeners and viewers every week on how we performed. Obviously, we're going head to head, and Pav, I hate to say it, you've taken the win on the first week.
Yep. Oh, I'm going to try to win every week. I'm going to absolutely bury you, but I went for in my allocation a Bitcoin for 50% of the portfolio, Solana 25, and Celestia the other 25. So most of those assets are up evenly. I think the net profit or the end profit was $800. So that's where I wound up last week. And this week I'm going to jump into IMX.
Yep.
Looking good on the technicals for me. And then Bitcoin and Solana again, just because they're showing strength. I kind of expect that to continue.
Okay, cool. I'll run everyone through my picks again. So I went through for Link, Toncoin, and Ondo. So the Link and Toncoin was purely based off the token 2049 announcements. So we saw that play out with Toncoin, but for some reason the price dropped. I think because it performed so well in the weeks prior. So a bit disappointed with that one. Ondo as well, 5% down. Link did okay. It was 15% up, but overall, out of my $10,000, $30 down. So not great compared to your $800 up.
That's okay.
But I'll run people through my tips for this week because, Pav, I plan to overtake you and crush you over the coming weeks.
You actually got a pretty good looking list.
Yeah. So starting off with Bitcoin, I'm going $600. So the majority of my portfolio into Bitcoin for this week.
Yep.
Purely based off halving. We talked about it before. We expect Bitcoin dominance to rise over the next, like based on previous cycles.
Same. That's why I've got the most in that, just because it's got to go first, right? So,
exactly. And then you've also got the ETFs and also the Hong Kong, which could start trading anytime.
Could be like next week, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be big.
Next I've got WIF, Dog Whiff Hat.
Mate, my favourite.
So it's down 37% from its all-time high. And we saw the likes of Bonk and Pepe that did like 30% over the last week. So I'm looking at that and saying, okay, I think WIF is next to run. It's probably been the most popular meme coin for the last sort of 6 months.
Made the Las Vegas Sphere.
Did it?
Yeah, they ended up doing it.
They paid for that.
Yep.
I think it's like $600,000 for a day or something.
They'll do it
maybe
again.
A couple of hours.
I'm sure they'll do it again. I'm sure they're planning it right now.
Should we do a tick billboard on the Sphere?
Well, sure.
Great. And then lastly, I was tossing up between either Stacks or Render. I've gone for Render for the last $190 of my portfolio.
That's $10,000. What do you mean? $190?
Sorry, I've based this off. Yeah, sorry, I meant 1,900.
Okay.
Sorry, I've gone in hundreds instead of thousands. So 1,900 into Render. I just think out of the AI, it's probably the strongest.
Yep.
So I think the AI narrative is still running hot, and it doesn't take much for that to pick up a bit of steam again. So I think Render's similar to WIF is down probably 20% from its high from a couple of weeks ago. So I like calling that one.
That's a good point, mate.
Yeah.
Good allocation. Both meme and AI were the front runners just recently. So
I was interested with IMX. Bit of a sleeper over the last sort of couple of months.
That's kind of my thing. It's just, again, technically for me, it looks like it's been in a longish range of accumulation. And I have seen the likes of OP and Arbitrum running prior to this big dump. So yeah, I'm just thinking IMX could be, again, sleeping giant, just like you said. But again, it may or may not. Kind of taking a punt on this one. I probably could have picked, I think something like WIF might have been a bit better. But I'm hoping by next week, we're looking pretty Gucci.
Yeah, you know what's silly? For the demo trading, I jumped into coins that I'd never traded before, and then for my actual portfolio, I jumped into Sui,
and you did well,
and all of them did like plus 20% gains in a week. So I don't know why. I thought I'd take a bit of a punt.
You got it. It's like the footy tipping, right? Sometimes you don't pick the home team. You
got to risk it for the biscuit.
Exactly.
Cool,
That's
mate.
it. That was a good ep.
Absolutely.
We'll be back to break down what's happened next week. I have the feeling next week's going to be a pretty important one. We either would have made it or we've failed it. I think we'll find out what the market's going to show its hand this time next week. So it'll be a good episode, I reckon.
Let's wait and see. And for everyone listening, make sure to follow us on socials and check out our YouTube channel for the video so you can check out the charts that Pav is putting on the screen.
You can check out the TED too.
Yeah, you can. But anyway, catch you next week.
Yeah, thanks again, guys, for we're getting a fair few subscribers lately, so really appreciate the support. So
Yeah. Cheers.
see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.